Like Job, we all face times in our lives when things don't go as planned, and we have to endure hardship.
Sometimes our relationship with God suffers, and for many men, going outside the will of God feels like the better solution.
From his article, "Do You Possess the Character of a Virtuous Man?" Pastor Frederick Crawford writes,
When we as men begin to fall out of his will, we start to fit into those stereotypes put on us by society.
and we allow ourselves to live a life that was not meant for us.
By having faith in God, we must trust God more than our capacity to understand God's ways.
Let's go back to our spotlight guest, John, where he'll share with us how we can help men of faith.
And how prayer is instrumental in building an authentic manhood.
I think that we can all help different men that we know try to become the men who they're supposed to be in faith by challenging them. We're all called to be disciples. Being a disciple requires discipline, and you have to challenge your friends, whether it's through inviting them to a Bible study or different youth group functions, and then challenging them to live out the things that they're hearing. Without prayer, you cannot be a man of faith. It's just impossible. Because you need to know God to be a man of faith. And how do you know God unless you immerse your life in prayer? And it's very difficult for me, but I've come to realize that, or first just aware that I should be praying all day. Then I can start to bring prayer into different things. By immersing myself in prayer, by surrounding myself with good people, positive people who build me up, I can start to get a sense of what is that next door that God wants me to go through? Where is that path leading to? Then a lot of passages of scriptures are just really evocative. I was just reading the book of Sirach, and I just love the imagery that the book of Sirach was using about going and just absorbing wisdom. You have to go sit at the foot of wisdom and just learn. But they also had great practical advice. The book of Sirach was saying, surround yourself with positive people. Flee from those who are immoral and who can lead you astray, because they'll never have what leads to life. Surround yourself with positive people, surround yourself with God-fearing people, and that will point you to God.
What are some examples that Jesus gave us for men to achieve authentic manhood?
I think one good example is when it comes to how Jesus accepted everyone. For instance, with the story of the stoning, where Jesus says, those without sin can throw the first stone. And Jesus had an acceptance of this woman, despite her sins.
Another example is when he's in the desert and he's fasting and the devil comes and tempts him. And it shows his self-restraint because the devil says, well, if you're the Son of God, then throw yourself off this cliff and he will save you. And I mean, I'm not saying I would, but sometimes if I have something really special, such as a gift like that, I could perform miracles. I mean, I might start a parade and just go around saying, I can do this and I can do that. But he really showed the self-restraint.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Chris. I mean, when Jesus was before the high priests and when they were asking him all sorts of questions like, are you the Son of God? And he just didn't answer. He sat there quietly, and they were spitting in his face and they were slapping him. And instead of lashing out, once again, he controlled his emotions and he didn't let it overcome him. And he was humble about it. Like I have to agree with Chris. If I could do the amazing stuff Jesus could do, I'd be like, yeah, I'm Jesus, I'm the Son of God. Like he restrained himself, and that's what most men today need to learn how to do.
Next, we asked the guys in the street if they considered themselves men of faith.
Let's check it out.
Do you consider yourself a man of faith?
No. I do consider myself a man of faith. I go to church, I pray. I have, as I said before, morals.
I go to church every Sunday.
I'm still young and experiencing different things in life, so I can't really say totally yes.
Yes, I am a man of faith, and I do try to follow all the rules and do good things and help people.
I don't really see myself as a man of faith. Like other people who are, I have respect for them.
I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. He saved my life. He saved me out of jail. He saved me out of prison.
I don't really go to church every Sunday or that much, only when I have to. So I do believe in God, though.
Yes, I am a man of faith. I have to take this seriously now. This is all gonna joke. Yeah, actually, I grew up in church. My dad's a pastor. I believe in Jesus Christ, my Savior. I am a man of faith, yes.
Being a man of faith requires integrity.
It requires making commitments as well as keeping them.
It shows others that you are principled, honest, and living a healthy and exemplary lifestyle in fellowship with Christ.
Let's go back to the teens on the street where we asked them,
would you respect someone who is seen as a man of faith?
I definitely respect someone who would be seen as a man of faith because my church, the Catholic Church, has so many rules that people have to abide by to be a man of faith. In today's culture, it's so much harder to follow those rules.
It takes a lot to deal with like pressures from society, and those people who are faithful, like they stay true. They're like saints.
I would respect a man of faith because they would have integrity and they'd be honest.
Someone who has faith has morals.
Tell me about someone you know who is a man of faith. Describe this person and tell me why you think he's a man of faith.
My father, he just always has me go to church on Sundays, and he has me helping out in the church.
I guess I would say my father is a man of faith. No matter what people say, he still sticks to it. You know what I mean?
My Uncle Marvell, he's a great guy. You know, he goes out with the pamphlets and stuff. He hands them out. He preaches to people, and he brings a lot of new people to our church.
My brother, he's a stand-up guy. He's a man of faith.
My pastor, because he preaches every Sunday and he leads the church. He has obviously a lot of faith in God.
At my old school, he was the pastor at the church before he became a priest. His wife died. He decided to go out and live the life as a priest. And he always found happiness in a situation. He was just a really good guy.
The priest of my church, obviously for the fact that he's a priest, he clearly recognizes his faith. But other than that, I'm not saying I have a troubled and terrible life, but I mean, I do hit rough spots, as everybody does. And he encouraged me to talk and open up and recognize it's okay to be a part of the church and recognize your faith and have it be a part of your life.
I think a man of faith in my life would be my dad, because when we went over his house, we always thought of it as a vacation. You didn't have to wake up. And then one morning he just stomped down the stairs, found the three of us asleep, and he goes, "What are you doing? We're going to church." I think that would be a man of faith.
I know for me, a big role model of faith would actually have to be my dad, just like Emily. And, not only is my dad a devout Christian, he goes to church every Sunday, he goes to daily mass, and he tries his best to get to adoration every week, but he's also an usher and a Eucharistic minister. So I think what's great about that is not only does he spread the faith, in our church, but also outside of our church community by administering the Eucharist. So it's an example of what men of faith can do.
Yeah, I think a man of faith in my life, I'd have to say, is my abuelo, or my grandfather. He always finds a way to tie something back to God, to the catechism. He answers everything with religious philosophy, whenever you have problems. And he's a very wise man too, I'd never had a moment where I didn't take something he said seriously. He's crazy about his faith, he's a very devout person. Finally, our spotlight guest, John, talk to us about the great role models of faith from the Bible.
Let's hear him now.
St. Joseph often comes to mind, who is just an extreme role model of faith. It took a lot of guts to accept Mary. It took a lot of love to do that. And that's another example of what it means to be a true man, just the love that he had for Mary. When you're a father of a family, you're gonna have to put your family first. When you run a business, you're gonna put the business and the customers first before yourself. We all have a challenge to start putting others first right now. And that's gonna lead to more positive relationships. That's gonna lead to better friendships. That's gonna lead to a healthier and happier life. What always struck me about Jesus' passion was that at every step of the way, he was always able to make it end. He could always stop if he wanted to. And I always thought to myself, he had that end goal in mind where he was going to do it out of love for me. And only more recently I've realized that with every step he was making that decision. Every second he had to make that decision. And at every second he said, no, I'm going to do this because I love them. No, I'm going to do this because I love you. And so that's had a great impact on my life, because it's that kind of discipline, that kind of conviction that I try to emulate. I mean, Jesus is the role model. He is everything you could ever want.
As guys, we want to make sure that we're not detracting from being a man of faith. We don't want to be disrespectful and make it seem that being a man of faith is uncool. So for our fellow guy friends, we should encourage that instead of saying, "Man, you're going to church on Sunday." Say, "Oh, I really think that's cool that you're going to church on Sunday."
Temptation is one of the biggest things of today, and for males and females alike, for our generation, what's the biggest temptation? It's sex. Sadly to say, inhibitions have been lowered for generations past throughout the time. It's unfortunate that a boy cannot become a man in his friends and his father's and his family's eyes without having this physical relationship with a girl. And becoming a man of faith, making it cool, well, we have to change this as well to show that lust is not love. And love is something much more deeper and emotional than just having sex with an individual.
I once went to a session called The Theology of the Body, and the man who was giving the session talked about how sex is God's greatest gift to man. And so temptation and the devil would choose to attack that the most. That's why it's one of the biggest things we have to look out for, because it is our greatest gift. For females and for males, try not to go looking for that stuff. And back to the men and their emotions, you know, and how it's okay for men to cry. Sometime last year, my Uncle Bob died. He's not really my real uncle, but he was a close friend of my father. He died, and it was very unexpected, and people were giving their eulogies and talking about him, and I look over at my dad, and I could see him crying, you know, and he was all right with it, though, because that's not the first time I've seen him cry either. There was another occasion where a friend of his died, and I saw him crying, and I remember I was a little kid. You know, the thing is he's my father, and, you know, people usually think, oh, the fathers are supposed to be the models, and they can't cry in front of their kids, but my dad did cry in front of me, and that let me know that it was okay, and he was okay with it, too. He wasn't ashamed of it. And it's just as Jesus cried in the garden, and he was sweating blood, and he was crying, and he didn't want to accept what he had to do, but his father told him that he needed to do it, and he accepted it.
My dad used to never cry. I never thought that he would cry. But this past year, his mother died, and, you know, he used to cry all the time. And I mean, months after it happened, he came to me and he said, you know, I feel so bad. And I said, why do you feel bad, Dad? And he said, because I felt like I wasn't there. I wasn't strong for my family. You know, I was weak. And I said, no, you know, it doesn't make you any less of a man. You lost someone who you loved. It's normal for you to feel that way.
If Jesus is the perfect man, then we must strive to imitate him.
While the journey of becoming a man may not be as easy as many of us would like it to be, God has given us the perfect role model.
Every day, both men and women are called to be disciples of Christ.
We are called to be his obedient servants, always humble to his will,
so we can ultimately experience the eternal glory of God in heaven.
So in what ways are you helping the men in your life grow closer in their relationship with God?
We'd love to hear from you.
Contact us at RealfaithTV.com.
Or follow us on Twitter.
And we'll leave you with this final passage from St. Paul's second letter to Timothy.
So turn from youthful desires and pursue righteousness, faith, love, and peace,
along with those who call the Lord with the purity of heart.
Thanks for watching.
We'll see you next time on
Real Faith TV. God bless.